we have forced the companies to go further and further out. This is an illogical situation where right now Cuba is drilling in Florida waters because you can do parallel drilling and very successfully, but we don't allow our own oil companies. So therefore, is this an unbelievable tragedy? Yes, it is. Were there some mistakes made? I'm sure there were. Exactly who is to blame and so on, but the number one blame is we shouldn't have been drilling there. We should have been drilling in where there is just as lucrative and far less expensive and far lower risk oil on the coast. Now what we have done as a solution is to make the problem worse. We've absolutely going to stop all drilling. So therefore, what are we going to do? We're going to buy more oil from our enemies. All we do is keep giving the world ammunition to keep firing back at us. It's a very strange war that you fight when you give your enemies the ammunition. And that's what we're doing by importing. Most of the major oil powers in the world are not friendly to the United States. They are supporting basically terrorism in this country.
And it's puzzling to me. Charles Krauthammer commented on this, of course, on Fox News some time ago, and it was during Apollo 13, you had an instantaneous coming together of private industry and of the government to save the lives of those 3 astronauts. And we found a solution, and we worked very quickly to do so. In this instance, you find that where's the rest of private industry? Where's government? Why isn't the Navy there? It's just amazing how the administration has been dragging their feet. The interesting thing, of course, is that the administration was going to give BP a safety award for oil drilling that was scheduled to occur the day after the explosion occurred in the Gulf.
Well, the thing is, what we don't want to realize is that this has been very safe. And to say that something, because it fails one time in 1,000, therefore it's unsafe, if we were to judge our education system or anything else that failed one time in 1,000, when it fails basically 1 in 10 or 1 in 1 almost, that this is a very safe industry, as I say. But because we drilled in the most difficult circumstances, we increased the odds. But even there, the safety record is very good. Unfortunately, the failure at this point is very bad. I agree with you. Are we absolutely working together? It seems we're more concerned about attaching blame than we are solving the problem.
Yes. Well, speaking of education, let's turn to the state budget. The state budget, of course, is due to be completed and in place on July 1. What's the prognosis?
The prognosis is, number one, it will not be obviously completed on time. And primarily the reason is because we're trying to find some elusive Band-Aid. We should probably have this on the screen, but we don't, is that we are fighting about a budget of 10% of the total dollars. 42 cents on the dollar is spent on education. 37% is spent on welfare, and of that, 2/3 is actually health care. Finally, 7% is spent on correction of the whole system, and the last 4% is spent on interest. These are all off the table. If you add them up, that's 90%. There is no way we can solve our problem by fighting over the 90%. We do need some government. Whether we could improve the 90%, I'm not going to argue, but when we're talking about a $29 billion budget, we're talking about fighting over $2.9 billion. You cannot get a 1.2 or 1.5 billion savings out of 2.9. That's impossible. So therefore, what we need to do is really examine the other 3. Obviously, we can't change the interest charge. That's what it is. And we refuse to do that. The governor of New Jersey has showed real leadership. He's saying there will be pain. Mr. Teachers, you are going to not be able to get massive increases anymore because you are the highest paid employees in the state. This is what we have to start to do. Look at our system, see where, at this point, again, education specifically, we are throwing more and more money at it and getting less and less results. So obviously throwing money at a problem isn't a solution. To create the proper incentives, to evaluate properly, and so on, we have to start to really, how can we get a good educational system, not how can we spend the most money, it seems to be as our philosophy right now. And our welfare system, again, it's part of course, the other big problem in this country, which is health care. And this is what's eating up our welfare system. These are people that generally don't take care of themselves, which is a typical situation, and therefore, but then the government will spend tremendous, unlimited number of money to take care of these people.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, the budget last year was balanced because we had access to the federal stimulus money. The budget this year will be, they believe that they will be able to balance it. They believe that in January and early February with the stimulus money. But stimulus money goes away as of next year. What's going to happen to state budgets in Pennsylvania after the stimulus money leaves, Ed?
Well, this is the thing, which of course is one of our other questions, is our economy really going to recover? And I hate this word, but I do believe it is different this time. The recovery, because the government is doing nothing to stimulate small business whatsoever, and therefore the recovery is going to be extremely slow, and the revenues for the state therefore will not improve. So we really right now have over a $4 billion deficit. We just said that only $2.9 billion of the budget is in play. The rest of it is considered a sacred cow, and we can't touch it. We're going to have to examine our entire expenditures, which means we are going to have to look at the cost. We've complained right now in the public is these generous programs that the Greek government has for their government employees, their early retirement, their high benefits, et cetera, et cetera. We have exactly the same thing.
Except the Greek government, the employees were receiving more checks for weeks of work than there were weeks in the year. They got that extra bonus.
I'm not saying that their system may not even been more aggressive than ours, but as we also have a simple number here, we should be written down there, the cost of a government employee is, I believe it's $48 an hour?
This is one of the great ironies, isn't it? When you and I were growing up, you found that it was always thought the public sector jobs had security, but they didn't pay as well as the private sector jobs. And as you're just saying, that's absolutely right. Now you find the average hourly wage of public employees is $39.66. And the average hourly wage of private sector workers is $27.42.
And when you would put in the benefits, which we believe are probably double that of your private, automatically makes your, and again, part of the cost is your average public employee gets tremendous amount of time off compared to your private employee, at least twice as much time off as the private. So when you start putting all these costs together, the cost for our public employee with, as you said, job security, guaranteed increases, which we've been going through right now, which we're going to have to stop, but we have been doing, is no comparison. There's no question. If you want to get the highest pay for the least effort, become a public employee, because you have great job security, great benefits, great pay, and you will never be able to be fired for all practical purposes.
Certainly it's an indication that economic conditions have changed. Well, we want to thank you very much for your time and for being with us for this installment of the Arnold Report. For all of you viewers, please send in your questions for Mr. Arnold, and we'll tackle them on air during the next installment of the Arnold Report. And we look forward to seeing you then, Ed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good, Charlie. Thank you.
We'll see you next week on Behind the Headlines.